Since 2001, the Fast and Furious movies have morphed into a massive, sprawling franchise. In fact, the series easily rivals most comic book movies for surprisingly dense lore, outrageous action, and heroic, one might even say super-heroic leads. In 2001's The Fast and the Furious, we're introduced to Brian O'Connor, an undercover cop tasked with taking down a gang of muscle car-loving thieves who have been stealing what they claim to be millions of dollars of DVD players. Brian finds a lead in Dominic Toretto, the charismatic ringleader of a group of carheads who may or may not be the same gang that Brian's after.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
To make things even more complicated, Dom's sister Mia, the shop owner of Toretto's Market, is the object of Brian's affection. Brian impresses Dom with his driving, eventually ingratiating himself into Dom's team, which isn't a family just yet. Unfortunately, Brian soon learns that he can only play both sides of the law for so long, and comes clean to the Toretto family when it looks like Dom and his gang will end up on the wrong end of a trucker's shotgun. With Brian's cover blown and Dom forced to leave town, the two have one last quarter-mile race. Ultimately, rather than take his new friend into custody, Brian gives Dom the keys to his car and lets him race off into the distance. Too Fast, Too Furious, surprisingly, isn't the second part of this franchise. Instead, that honor goes to the turbocharged prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious, a short film which sees Brian on the run after letting Dom go free. For some reason, this leads to a nationwide manhunt, with his face plastered all over the nightly news. That sort of thing tends to present a problem when you're driving across America winning street races like some sort of gear shaft version of Johnny Appleseed. When Cop sees his vehicle while Brian's driving through Texas, he's able to hitch a ride with an unnamed woman who recognizes his face, possibly because of his uncanny resemblance to Lance Harbor from Varsity Blues. After that, he buys a new car, wins more street races, and finds himself in Miami, the city where the heat is on. In 2003's Too Fast, Too Furious, Brian has fully transformed from undercover cop with an unmistakable surfer accent into a king of the Miami street racing scene with an unmistakable surfer accent. Together with organizer and former racer Tej, Brian's been racking up the bills and notoriety in Miami. That all comes to a screeching halt when he's arrested by the Miami police after they fire an electronic harpoon into his car. The police want Brian to go undercover inside a criminal organization, and they're willing to wipe Brian's criminal record if he can take down Verone, Miami's resident drug lord. Brian recruits his childhood best friend and ex-con Roman to help him race his way to Verone's good graces. With the help of another undercover agent, Monica Fuentes, Brian and Roman capture Verone, clear their criminal records, and walk away with a pile of illicitly acquired cash. And that's about when the timeline hits turbo speed with chronological hijinks. Los Bandoleros was a short film co-written and directed by Vin Diesel that serves as a prelude to the fourth film, Fast and Furious. Following Dom as he assembles a new crew for an upcoming heist of a gasoline truck in the Dominican Republic. Letty's back to rekindle her romance with Dom, but she's not the only familiar face in the short film. Han originally appeared and died 3 years earlier in the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, which was the third movie released. A quick line of dialogue establishes that the Han we see here has never been to Japan, so we know that this takes place before Tokyo Drift. For now though, all you need to know is that Dom loves Letty, the people of the Dominican Republic, and stealing gas from the rich to give to the poor. 2009's Fast and Furious begins with a heist planned in the Los Bandoleros short. Dom, Letty, Han, Tego, and Santos steal a bunch of gas to give to the people of the Dominican Republic, but their celebration is short-lived. Dom knows that as long as he's a wanted criminal, Letty's in danger of being arrested too. So he leaves Letty in the middle of the night off to go live his life 1/4 mile at a time. Meanwhile, Brian is working with the FBI as a field agent, trying to find leads on a drug lord named Braga. Dom is forced to return to Los Angeles after learning that Letty was seemingly killed by one of Braga's men while she was working with Brian to take the drug lord down in exchange for clearing Dom's criminal record. Dom and Brian both go undercover in Braga's street racing organization, Brian intending to catch Braga, Dom intending to kill him. While there, they run into and befriend Giselle, Braga's wondrous right-hand woman. Eventually, Dom and Brian reconcile and take Braga down.
I would have won that race if you didn't cheat, right?
You hit your head hard.
Unfortunately, Dom is captured by the FBI and sentenced to 25 years in prison for all of his prior street racing-related crimes. Luckily for him, Brian is used to going against the law to save his friend. The film ends with Brian, Mia, and the rest of the crew teaming up to break Dom out. 2011's Fast 5 picks up immediately where Fast and Furious left off. Dom escapes from prison with his family, and the crew heads to Rio de Janeiro to figure out their next moves. Brian takes a gig stealing cars from a train, but unbeknownst to the family, one of the cars they steal belongs to Reyes, a ruthless drug lord who controls Rio with an iron fist. Dom, Mia, and Brian recognize that they've got a golden opportunity to steal enough money from Reyes to fund their fugitive lives permanently. It's more than a 3-person job, so they put out the call for the whole family to assemble. Roman, Tej, Giselle, Han, Tego, and Santos all arrive ready to steal $100 million from Reyes. Unfortunately, Reyes isn't the only obstacle in their way. Luke Hobbs, a diplomatic security service agent and all-around tough guy, is on the hunt for the family. Along for the ride is Elena, a Rio patrol officer with a grudge against Reyes for the murder of her husband. Dom and Hobbs have their requisite tough guy face-off.
This is Brazil!
But they're forced to work together after Reyes kills Hobbs' entire team, save for himself and Elena. The family's heist goes off without a hitch, and Hobbs gives Dom a full 24-hour grace period before they resume their muscular cat and muscular mouse chase. At the end of Fast 5, there were only 2 things that could get the family back in action: the promise of amnesty and the knowledge that Letty is alive. It turns out that Letty survived the explosion back in Fast and Furious, but got amnesia. She was then conscripted into a kind of evil version of the Fast family led by villainous Owen Shaw. Hobbs and his new partner Riley bring the Fast family, because obviously only fast thieves can catch fast thieves.
It wasn't that hard to find you, Toretto.
Wasn't hiding.
Eventually, through the magic of street racing, Dom's able to convince Letty that she's being manipulated by Shaw, and convinces her to join the team. Unfortunately, she's not the only double agent. Riley's been working for Shaw the whole time, just waiting for the perfect opportunity to betray Hobbs. It all comes to a head on the world's longest airstrip as the Fast families battle to stop Shaw from escaping with secret government technology. Giselle sacrifices herself to save Han. Shaw is stopped, and ultimately, the family's previous crimes are forgiven, allowing them to return to Los Angeles once again. After Giselle's death in 2013's Fast and Furious 6, Han finally makes good on his promise to visit Tokyo in a movie released 7 years earlier, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. The third movie released in the series, Tokyo Drift was a failed effort to reinvent the franchise without Paul Walker or Vin Diesel, and most of the film concerns itself with Sean Boswell. He's a high school scholar sent to live with his family in Tokyo after his penchant for street racing lands him in hot water in the States. Sean meets Han, whose coolest ice persona and street racing skills have made him a major player in the underground racing scene. Han takes Sean under his wing, even loaning him a car and tutoring him in the ways of drifting to beat DK, the nephew of a Yakuza crime boss.
You know what DK stands for?
Donkey Kong?
Drift King.
Unfortunately, Han's training is interrupted when DK and his uncle's henchmen attack Han's garage. In the ensuing chase scene, Han is tragically hit by a passing motorist, and his fuel tank goes up in a massive ball of fire. Consumed with raging vengeance, Sean challenges DK to a race in which the winner has to leave town forever. Sean wins, becoming the new Drift King, and Dom shows up, explaining that Han was family. The post-credit scene of Fast and Furious 6 returned to Han's death in Tokyo Drift, but with one major bit of context: a mysterious stranger who's following the chase on a police scanner. With careful timing, the stranger speeds right into Han, and then the as-yet-named character calls Dom on the phone as Han's car burns, delivering a foreboding message.
Dominic Toretto. You don't know me. You're about to.
There's nothing more important than family in the Fast and Furious universe, but bad guys have families too. In this case, Owen Shaw has a big brother named Deckard. He kills Han in the post-credit scene of Fast and Furious 6. When the family hears about Han's death, Dom travels to Tokyo to pay his respects and start the hunt for Deckard. Meanwhile, Deckard's been busy. He's already attacked Hobbs and Elena to find out everything he can about the Fast family. When Dom finally meets Deckard, their climactic street fight is interrupted by a mysterious government agent named Mr. Nobody, who needs Dom and his team to do some odd jobs for them in return for the use of God's Eye, a hacking tool that can find anyone on the planet, including Deckard.
This time it ain't just about being fast.
The team rescues Ramsey, the hacker who designed God's Eye, from a Somali mercenary trying to use the device for nefarious reasons. It all comes to a head in Los Angeles, of course, where Dom and his team need to keep Ramsey away from Deckard long enough for her to disable the God's Eye. Fortunately, they have some help from Hobbs.
Daddy's gotta go to work.
Deckard Shaw is taken to jail after Dom beats him by stomping on a parking garage like the Incredible Hulk, and then Dom briefly dies and is resurrected with the power of love, thus avenging Han. The real-life death of Paul Walker leads to the character Brian's retirement, as he rides off into the sunset with Mia and their son. After going to Havana and winning a street race by driving backwards in a car that literally explodes, Dom runs into Cypher, a cyber terrorist who blackmails him into betraying his family for the only reason he would. Even more family. Dom's ex-girlfriend Elena secretly had his child between the events of Fast and Furious 6 and Fate of the Furious, and Cypher is holding the two of them hostage unless Dom gives her what she wants: nuclear weapons. When Dom battles against his family and Mr. Nobody, he calls in favors from some old friends and recent enemies, including the Shaw brothers, who now have full-on jetpacks. They all help Dom double-cross Cypher, but unfortunately, Elena dies, and Cypher escapes to lick her wounds and plot a future sequel. Deckard Shaw arrives to the requisite post-battle meal with Dom's son, who's named Brian after Dom's best friend. What's next for the family? Coming in August of 2019 is Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, which will see the eponymous odd couple facing off against a superpowered Idris Elba.
Look at me. I'm Black Superman.
Fast and Furious 9 is slated for 2020, and while there hasn't been much news about it since, an animated show called Fast and Furious Spy Racers was announced in April 2018. Now with reports of on-set conflicts between series leads, the future looks cloudy. The spin-off might be a way to keep Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his popular character in the universe without him sharing screen time with Vin Diesel. Whatever else is on the road ahead, no one really knows for sure. All we can do is get there ourselves, 1/4 mile at a time. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.